The time is 9:07 and you're tuned in to Luta Continua here on CKCU 93.1. I'm Monique Fuller. Local filmmakers Jith Paul and Karim Ayari collaborated this past March break to make a short film called Before Me. The film is in both French and English and explores intolerance and its impact on children. Shortly after the film was completed, I spoke with Jith, the film's producer, and Karim Ayari about the film. Hello, Jith and Karim. Welcome to Luta Continua.
Thank you.
Hello.
Let's start off with talking about the actual film and what the film's about. Can you just give us a very, very brief synopsis?
It's about this 8-year-old boy who's going through his parents' divorce, and his mother starts dating a Muslim man, and the father's not very happy about that. And you can clearly see how he's influenced by his father.
And this is a short film, right?
It's a short film. It's 15 minutes.
Where did the idea for Before Me come from?
I would say it came from a lot of places, but more than anything, it came from the Donald Trump presidential campaign, where clearly racism has achieved a new level and accepted racism. I think that whole campaign lately has been a breeding ground for hate and intolerance and accepted racism. And I once read an article about a woman who talked about his son's class, where a little boy told a Mexican girl that she would be deported once Donald Trump would be president. And I thought, this should be addressed in a short film. I think it's very timely. So that's just one of the places where I picked my ideas.
So, Karim, you are the writer for this project, and Jith, you're the producer. How did this project come to you, Jith? How did Karim contact you? How did that work out, that collaboration?
Karim and I have worked on a number of projects together in different roles, and we have learned how we work together, and our worldviews in general coincide. So when he pitched this idea, I don't think I thought twice about it. When I received the script, I'm not bilingual, and the script was written in French. So I had to kind of Google translate through it, but I gleaned enough information from that first translation to know that absolutely I was on board, given the current situation in the U.S., but also in Canada with the Syrian refugees and immigration, and all it kind of aligned with a lot of things I was thinking about at the time. So I don't think there was ever a question that I would work on this with Karim.
Yeah, I think if you get, this is a very simple story about family, but if you give it like a broader shoulders, it's really about the Syrian refugee crisis as well. And so that's one of the reasons why I think it's so timely. It's just because of what I've been seeing on Facebook and in the news. I think it's more than a story about family. It's really a story about intolerance.
This project came together quite quickly, approximately 4 weeks. How did you manage to pull that off?
I was out of town, and any moment I could get, I would just write the movie on my phone. So I would say I wrote almost the whole movie on my phone, just because I was never in front of a computer, always out of town. And then there was a small window of 3 weeks where I was in town, and I could just concentrate on this movie. And so I'm very hands-on with everything, so from the writing to the casting to the directing and so that allowed me to not depend on a big crew's availability. And so really it was, I asked Jith if he was available, I asked the actors if they were available, and that's it. And I knew who was going to play each role while I was writing it, because while I was writing the movie, I contacted the actors, and then when they confirmed that they were available, I was ready to write for their roles. So I kind of did everything in reverse. Usually you would write the movie and then cast it, but in this case I casted it knowing who the characters would be, and then I wrote dialogue knowing how they would speak.
And actually, that's what I was going to ask you about, was the casting. Can you tell us a little bit about the cast? I saw the trailer, and it's a wonderful film from what I could see so far, with excellent acting. Can you give us just a quick rundown of who the actors are?
Yes. Well, the lead actor is an 8-year-old or 9-year-old boy He's my nephew, actually, who told me a while ago that he wanted to be an actor. And so I asked him how serious he was about that. And he says, no, he said, I'm very serious. I want to try acting. So I said, okay, I'll make a short film and you'll be the lead. And but he's never really acted before, so I worked very closely with him. The woman who plays his mother is Mélodie Courval, who I worked with her for, I would say, in probably all my movies. She's an unbelievably talented actress. She impresses me every time, and I thought this was a great opportunity for her because this is the first mostly French movie I've done, and she's a French actress, and so I really wanted this to showcase her talent. And Benjamin Gaillard plays the father, and I didn't know him before. It was through I asked a few other actors if they knew French actors who could play this role, and his name came up. I contacted him. Jith and I met him, and we thought, yeah, he's perfect. And I'm really glad that we cast him. And finally, there's Saïd Kouda, who I had never met in person. He had added me on Facebook a while ago and asked me if I had if I could one day cast him for whatever role. He was just happy to play anything, and this was just absolutely perfect because he happens to be a Muslim actor. And so it gave this authenticity to his character because he played a Muslim in his he played a Muslim in his mid-30s. He basically played himself. Not being a Muslim, not being religious whatsoever, my worry was that I wouldn't have that authenticity in the movie because there's a lot about the Muslim religion that I don't know, and so I thought it was important to cast him, because he could give me any question I had. He had an answer for it. I'll just
practical things.
Any practical thing on set, I would ask him. Well, would someone pray like that? Like, would you bend down? What would you say? Would it be? Would you be saying something during your prayer, or would it be completely silent? And so he just gave me all these answers. It gave me a lot of confidence in directing this movie.
Because the script came together so quickly, while you were filming, did the actors contribute to the script in any way? Was there any ad-libbing?
I don't think there was any ad-libbing, Jith. I don't know if you remember any.
I don't think so, but you could, because Karim wrote with those specific people in mind, it's tough to say whether they made those contributions on set after they got the script or whether you actually wrote it that way, because I saw Melody in her character.
Yeah, I had Melody in mind when I was writing the script. So, and I've known Melody now for 5 years. I know how she acts. I know how she talks. And in French, when you write a dialogue in French, it's not the same as in English, because in French it's more spoken French, and so the writing is completely different. And so when I met the cast, I told them, if there's anything that you think you wouldn't say or you wouldn't say it a certain way, let me know, and I'm very open to ideas. So that did happen a few times, but it wasn't on set. It was before we met and we rehearsed, and they said, no, this doesn't really come out naturally. But other than that, I don't think there was a lot that changed, other than maybe Saïd giving suggestions on how he would behave as a Muslim man, with this white woman, and or just the prayer scenes. I wanted the prayer scenes to be very authentic, and that really helped me out a whole lot.
The film is bilingual in both French and English. Why did you make a decision to do the film in both languages?
I'm French, and I don't like to do a movie just in one language, being a Canadian filmmaker. I wanted this to have a Canadian identity. And so, and it's not something that you see often. You don't often see a bilingual movie in French and English, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to showcase Anglophone actors and Francophone actors. And I thought it kind of it gave the movie it gave the movie a Canadian identity, and a piece of me went into it being fully bilingual.
I also like the fact that Saïd made it seem like he was trying hard to learn French when he spoke to the kids, so that there was another level of, he's trying to meet the kid halfway by learning French. And I think Saïd is bilingual, but he made it sound, to me at least, as a non-French speaker, made it feel like he was trying to learn French as opposed to speaking it fluently.
Yeah, exactly.
The title of the film is Before Me. Can you explain the significance of the title?
Well, in the beginning of the film, the little boy explains that life. He got a sense that life was a lot simpler before he was born. It was something that slipped out when he was younger. His mom mentioned that, and she doesn't realize the impact it had on him. And so he explains that he just wishes that life could just go back to when it was simple before him. So that is that's the significance of the title, but it also has different levels of different significance because it deals a lot with prayer and with God and with religion, and so often you pray before a God. So I thought it just made sense.
Now that's the English title.
Yes.
What about the title in French?
There's no title in French yet. This, surprisingly, even though this is mostly francophone, we decided to do an English version first. Because we'll probably send it out to English festivals. It's probably going to have more Anglophone viewers before it has French viewers. So we just decided to have an English trailer with an English title, English subtitles first, and once that's completed, I'll put a whole lot of thought into it and see what it could be. Originally, the title was Riyadh, which is the name of the Muslim character, because a lot of the story revolves around him and the intolerance he's facing, and it was a bilingual name, but I just didn't think it represented the movie enough, and so that kind of became problematic because we had the title. It was a bilingual title. It was perfect. While we were shooting it, we were calling it Riyadh. But then when we were editing, we just realized that it wasn't the right title, and so that kind of threw us a curveball.
It's funny, too, because when Karim first emailed me and said, okay, let's call it Before Me, it immediately felt like it was the right title for me in English, and I have a strong feeling that a French title will emerge the same way.
Yeah.
You'll probably, we'll all probably watch it a few times, and then something will occur to you that has a double meaning or something that means more than what it literally means.
Yeah, I think we just need to watch it a few more times. It's still, we completed it 2 weeks ago, right? So it's still brand new, so we just need to watch it a few more times and kind of put our heads together and see what would make sense in French.
We talked about the neck-breaking pace at which this film was made, which is 4 weeks. Now, of course, because of that time constraint, I could imagine that there were a lot of challenges. But on the flip side, what was the best part of working at that pace?
Well, generally, when I work on a script, if I don't have a deadline, I never finish it. And so I've been, writing a script for a feature now for, I would say, probably close to 3 years. Never finished it. I did about 6 different drafts. For this, I gave us a window of 3 weeks for the production and post-production, and it just helped immensely because we were just working on adrenaline. And once you cast all the actors, when you make that investment, everyone is emotionally invested. That they put their time into it. You can't look back. You just don't have any other option. You just have to complete it. And I think that's what I need. I think that's just how I can't say that I like working that way, but it's the only way it can work, I notice, because every other project that I've done always worked out that way.
I think we have a long history of projects where they're all around that 3-week, 4-week kind of mark, and it's always worked out well. And I think practically it also worked out because Nicola had his March break.
Yeah.
So he was available for a week, and the actors, it all aligned. I think Saeed recently came back into Ottawa. He was out of town as well, so that kind of worked out.
Yeah.
It was like a lot of conspiring things that almost worked together.
Yeah, I don't think we would have been able to make this movie next week. I don't think we would have been able to make it any other time. It just worked out that I was in town. I had this window. Jith was available. The actors were available. Nicola, who's 9 years old, who's in school, was available for a full week.
And we had a location.
And we just had the locations. Everything just worked out that way.
And how long was filming? Did you film for an entire week?
I think it was during a period of 2 weeks. It was 8 days of shooting over a period of 2 weeks.
Not full days, like evenings and...
Yeah, there were some full days, some evenings, some just because some scenes... another challenge was some actors were available only in the evening, others were available during the day. Some actors were available only on weekends, and then most of these actors had scenes together. So that was just another challenge, and that's why we had to shoot this over 8 days, because we just had to shoot at specific times of the day.
In thinking about this film and about this interview in particular, I started thinking about the politics around film and why people make films, especially films that touch on social justice issues. And I personally came to the conclusion that there's a political aspect to every film that you make. Whether you include something or exclude something, there's always something going on. In terms of directly addressing social justice issues in your work, for both, this is a question obviously for both of you, how important do you think that is?
Well, I think it gives it a reason to make the movie. Personally, my name being Karim Ayari, my father being from Tunisia, like I said, I'm not a Muslim, I'm not religious whatsoever, but I do think that Muslims have rights, and I can put myself in their position. And I always sided with Muslims because I noticed that, especially over the last few months, I noticed that they were being treated unfairly. And so it's I just felt like it was my contribution. This movie is my voice, just like every other movie is my voice. I'm not necessarily a great communicator face to face, but I feel like if you give me time, I can build a good story, and that's just the contribution that I can make.
I think, and also in a sense, when you have real characters with real stories to relate to, it's a more powerful message than just a statement like we should be more fair to people. When you're actually tying it to a real person, even if it's a character in a movie, it has a much more emotional impact, because you can see how a kid could interpret what they see differently than the intent.
Yeah.
And that forms opinions and attitudes that kind of last with them throughout a lifetime. So this is kind of your character has a good life lesson in how his mother kind of shows him how to react correctly to situations. Yeah. That maybe is a teaching moment in other lives.
And having a brand new 6-month-old, I think just having a child in the movie and showing the innocence of a child and showing that they don't necessarily have the right tools to deal with prejudices, and how influence can be something that can be very dangerous. It can be beneficial, but it can be very dangerous. And that was just another piece of me that I felt that should be in the movie.
How does that collaboration work? Because I would assume within film, especially indie film, you're doing quite a bit, and that each collaboration is different. So if you're working with another filmmaker or another producer, that might look differently. How did your collaboration work? What did that look like?
I think we've just worked together so many different times in different roles. I've directed films that Karim has shot. I've worked on films that Karim has directed and written. I think we are at the point where we have a shorthand where we know how each other works and what we mean when we talk to each other, and that's why I think it works successfully.
Yeah, and I think we both have strengths as well, and I think that's why we complete each other very well when we make movies. And there's certain things that I just cannot do. For example, just promoting the movie. I'm not very good on social media, for example, but Jith is always on top of everything. He's on top of technology. He's on top of, and he's a great networker. Whereas, like I said, I'm not a great communicator face to face with people. I think Jith is great with that. But we both do love production, and we both had just have a blast working together on set as well.
And you'll see even in the little photos that we'll eventually post online, we both like working in relaxed environments. We're not, even though we set sometimes unrealistic deadlines for things, we don't want to always work in situations where it's stressful. So I've had people comment on sets they were on where we've been involved, commenting on how relaxed everything is, especially working with Karim, because he sees everything and he knows exactly how the movie is going to look. before we start shooting it. So, you adapt as situations arise, but overall, you have a very definite idea of what you want.
Yeah, and also to go back to what you were saying earlier about being having a relaxed set. When we met Benjamin, who plays the father in the movie, we had never met him before. We didn't know anything about him, and so he kind of surprised us when we met him, and he said, "I prefer acting in theater and not in movies. It just stresses him out." He says, "I don't like making movies." And I think he might have had like a certain idea of what being on a film set is, and it's when you have a big crew and it's just a stressful environment. And so we kind of just put him at ease, and we explained to him that we're kind of different because we like smaller crews. Sometimes it was just the two of us working together, and that was the crew. And actually, for most of the shoot, it was just the two of us, and it was just, you need a break, you take a break, but we're not going to put extra pressure on you. And I think he appreciated that in the end. I think it worked out for us, and it worked out for him as well. I think he enjoyed the experience.
I agree.
How would you describe currently the independent Ottawa film scene?
It's vibrant. There are a lot of groups working on different things and not necessarily chatting with each other or coordinating, which I guess is a challenge when you have something growing so fast. But there's certainly there's a niche for everything in the industry. You'll find it here in Ottawa if you look hard enough. And it's encouraging to see.
So now you guys are going into the post-production phase, or you're in the post-production phase. What do the next couple of weeks look like for you, or maybe even the next couple of months look like for you in terms of the film?
Well, yeah, post-production is pretty much done, or very close to being done. Like I said, I want as many people to see this film as possible. Saeed has seen a rough cut of it, and Saeed is the one who plays the Muslim in the movie. His reaction was, everyone needs to see this movie, and it really made me happy. If there's one person I think whose opinion I really value, it would be his. As a Muslim actor in Canada, I think that was the reaction I wanted, and so I want to follow his advice. I want as many people to see it as possible. So, film festivals around the world. That's my goal.
And what about local audiences? When will we get a chance to see the film?
We definitely want to find an opportunity to have a public screening. I think the actors did a tremendous job, and I think this is really going to showcase the talent in Ottawa. We absolutely, for any movie that we've done before, we found spots, we found opportunities to show them, and anybody who wanted to who wanted to see these movies got to see them. This will be no different.
Between now and when people can actually see the film, where can they keep up with information about the film and when it potentially will be shown in Ottawa?
Well, look for Before Me on Facebook. That would be one way. And we will be posting links and photos from the set and things like that in the meantime to get people interested and involved. And we will eventually set up a website. For now, you can go to treepotmedia.com if you want to get details about the film. But we will probably set up a website for the film itself once we get on the road to submitting it to festivals and things like that. So there's one place to go.
Thank you very much, Jith and Karim, for coming in today.
Thanks for having us.
And that was filmmakers Jith Paul and Karim Ayari. To find out more information about the film and for updates on Before Me, please visit the website Treepot Media or Treepot Media, make sure I get that right, .com. That's it for this edition of Luta Continua. Until next week, I'm Monique Fuller signing off.